Hey, this is Dan Brule here. I want to welcome you to the second annual tribute to Leonard Orr. Leonard Orr, as you may know, is the father of the modern breathwork world, the modern breathwork movement. I discovered Leonard Orr in 1976 after 5 years of being in the military. I was a deep sea diver. I did a lot of underwater rescue, practiced breath holding. I learned to control my breath in order to manage my arousal, to manage my emotions, to manage my mental state. And so when I discovered Leonard Orr, I discovered a whole new level of the breath, a whole new dimension of breathing. I had been working with people, for example, I was a CPR instructor. I did cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And I resuscitated a number of people in my life, and I trained probably more than 10,000 people. I trained in CPR. And so I was an underwater rescue person. I had been practicing breath holding. And my experience with the breath was I come upon somebody who was dead, clinically dead, not breathing, no pulse, pupils are fixed and dilated, and you blow into them, you give them of the breath of life, and they blink and wake up. What a miracle. So when I met Leonard, it took all that practice to the next level. Instead of coming upon people who were dead and breathing with them, I come upon people who are alive, breathe with them, and they become more alive. So it's the same work. He just helped me to take my work to a much higher level, a deeper level. And in many, many ways, I'm doing more important work now than when I was working as a rescue person, underwater rescue, and doing CPR. So we've gathered a number of lovers of Leonard Orr this year for our second annual tribute, and we asked them to contribute some of their thoughts, memories, stories. And so here is a group of people who, like me, honor Leonard Orr, who have wonderful stories to tell about Leonard. He changed their life as he changed mine. And it's not an exaggeration to say that Leonard Orr has touched the lives of tens of millions of people. Every modern breathwork movement owes some debt of gratitude to the original Rebirthing breathwork movement founded by Leonard Orr. And so enjoy my friends who are now going to share some beautiful memories and feelings about Leonard.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
It's an ongoing meditation. You can only learn the secrets of fasting by fasting. You can only learn the secrets of the fire from the fire. And when you're rebirthing other people, the rebirther is helping you to relax until you are able to learn the secrets of the breathing from the breath itself. So when people have that inner realization of learning to breathe from the breath itself, you can't put it into words. You can't give it to anybody. You have to just create a safe place for other people to have that experience.
Hello, I am Sandra Ray, and I had the extreme privilege of helping Leonard Orr spread the movement of rebirthing from the beginning. I was so lucky to meet him right when he started it, and I was number 3 in line of the great experiment when he tried it on people. And I was so happy because I had had a series of car accidents and I was very upset. And I was crying one night in a seminar, and these guys said, "What's wrong?" And I told them, they said, "Oh, there's a new guru in town. We'll take you to him." So the next day they drove me out to the Santa Cruz Mountains, and there was this man with a flip chart outside on this hill, and he was talking about the 5 biggies. And I looked at that list and I said, somewhere in that list is the cause of all my problems. So I thought that he must be my teacher. And then 2 weeks later, I was in a seminar on astrology, and I heard a man in the back said, "Who wants to try this new experiment?" And my hand went up like this. I volunteered. I didn't even know what it was for. And I turned around, and it was the same guy, Leonard Orr. So he said, "Okay, you have to drop out for 5 days." And, you know, I had a new job. It was very difficult that I could do that, but I did. And anyway, I ended up moving in with Leonard at the beginning of the whole thing and helping him spread the word. And I've been doing it ever since. I'm still doing it, and I'm extremely grateful to Leonard for giving me such a wonderful career.
So I would like to share a really amazing and beautiful story about Leonard Orr. And it was on my very first trip to India in August of 1980. And arrived to India. We were staying at this beautiful guest house in Delhi. And on the first morning, the next day, when I got up after arriving, Leonard was out in the courtyard. I walked up, so hey, Leonard, what are we doing today? And he said, let's go meet Indira Gandhi. I went, yeah, okay, well, what do we go knock on the door of the prime minister's house? But he said, no, let's go. I said, okay, he's my teacher. Let's do it. So we walked out to the street. We're trying to hail down a taxi. We get in the taxi, and so I thought, listen, I'm going to be part of this crazy thing. So I told the taxi driver, we're going to meet Indira Gandhi. And he goes, well, do you want me to take you to, and he named some Parliament House or something. And we said, yeah, sure, take us there. So we go to this big building. We're looking around, asking around, and we find this door. We go in. There's a guy at a desk. So we walk up and we say, hey, listen, we'd like to meet Indira Gandhi. So he says, okay, what's your name? Yeah, my name. Okay, come back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So we left going, well, what was that about? We come back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Okay, well, let's see. So the next day we show up at 8 o'clock and there's this line from that door we had gone in. There's a line around the building. So we're walking along the line, and we get in the end of the line. And the line even went around the corner of the building. And then people started getting in line behind us. So I'm thinking, wow, everybody's going to meet Indira Gandhi today. And so we're standing in the line's getting longer and longer. And after a few minutes, a little Indian guy with a clipboard is walking up the line and he's calling out our names. Dan Brule, Leonard Orr. We go, oh, that's us. Okay, come with me. So we went in. I had my little son with me, Dennis, who was 5 years old at the time, 7 years old at the time. And we had Leonard. And so this guy takes us into the same desk we were at the day before. And he says, okay, follow me. So we follow him into this other room. We go in. He brings us to this big conference room. There's a big, giant conference table. He says, just have a seat here. 5 minutes later, in walks Indira Gandhi. My second day in India. And I'm meeting the prime minister. And that was the very first thing I said to her. I said, wow. I've only been in the country for 2 days and I'm meeting you. I've been trying to meet the president of my country my whole life and I haven't met him yet. I'm in India for 2 days and I'm meeting you. She goes, well, India is a very magical country. And so we sat there for 45 minutes while she signed papers. She had my little son on her knees. She was pinching his cheeks and talking. We talked about the schools in the United States versus the schools in India. We talked about yoga. We talked oh my God, we sat with her for 45 minutes. And that was the day that I really recognized the beauty and the power of the expression in the breath, because she was signing papers. And every time she signed a paper, I could tell if it was something that she was happy to sign, something she was signing just as a bureaucratic thing that had no emotion, or something where it felt like she was giving something in order to get something and there was conflict. And it was as if I was in her psyche and I could feel what was happening inside of her. And sometimes her breath rose up high in her chest and got very alive. And other times it sunk down into her belly so strong and solid. And it was just, I've never looked at a person's breathing the same way since that day. And I also never doubted the power of creative thinking since that day, because that was Leonard's main teaching at the time, that thought is creative. If you form a thought, if you form a belief, and you put some action behind it, the universe is going to line up and help you. So that's one of my great stories about Leonard. I'm so happy to share it with you. August 1980, meeting with Indira Gandhi. Thank you, Leonard. An unforgettable memory in my life.
Hello, everybody. One of my most favorite times with Leonard was in December of 1978 when he launched Rebirth America for 1979. And we had a big convention out in Desert Hot Springs and launched this Rebirth America program where 50 of us met in Desert Hot Springs and set up a schedule for each rebirthing trainer to go to a different state each week and present a rebirth training. And there were people at the conference that would be the source people in each state, so we would move from state to state. So my first week was going to Lewiston, Idaho in January, and it was 24 degrees below zero, and I was in a motorhome, and went and presented a training in Lewiston, Idaho. It was fun. The wet rebirthings were exceptional with the steam coming up all over. We had a wonderful time. But from Idaho, I went to Seattle and then flew to Alaska and then flew back to Maui and then back to Seattle and then went down the coast to San Diego, went down the bottom of the country across Texas and so forth, and then up the East Coast all the way to Montreal. We met lots of wonderful people, did lots of wonderful trainings, made some money doing it. Everybody kind of worked out all right that way. And Leonard got a portion of the proceeds as well. So we did that for about 6 months. It took us to do the program we were doing. And so every week for 6 months, we did a training somewhere else in the country. It was a wonderful experience. And it was very rewarding for all of us who took part in it. Thank you.
Leonard Orr was my, quotes, older brother. He, for me, was a pioneer in opening the doors of consciousness. My introduction to Leonard came through my Tai Chi teacher, Fred Lehrman, in 1976, who later became one of the first certified rebirthers. Joan and I had just purchased our first house. The 3rd floor became the first rebirthing center in our city. Diane Hinterman, Marcia Harper were the first rebirthers to come and do sessions there. They blew the roof off with sessions that defied any logical explanations. Fred suddenly went to sleep, and a strange man appeared to Diane and told her to come to India. This must have been one of those interventions that were very compelling, because she did. Upon disembarking in India, she was met by someone who bade her to come with him up into the foothills of the Himalayas. After some travel, they arrived at Babaji's ashram. Diane recognized him instantly as the man who had appeared to her. Subsequently, a series of continuously mind-blowing occurrences happened for Diane, who then persuaded Leonard to come to Harakan. He was recognized by Leonard and Sandra as major teachers in their lives and a central inspiration in the breathwork movement, a grassroots revolution of empowerment. This is Leonard's legacy for us all, a legacy for which I am eternally grateful and carry with every conscious breath I breathe. Om Namah Shivaya.
Hi, my name is Ann Sermons-Gillis, and I met Leonard in the mid-'80s. I didn't just want to do what Leonard Orr was doing, I wanted to be a Leonard Orr. It was funny to watch him in action because he looked like, who's that character that, is it Magoo, that's always walking into things, but he doesn't get hurt, he just keeps skirting them. And I went to Campbell Hot Springs and spent time there. I flew one Christmas Day. But one thing that Leonard had me do was he had me go out into the woods and built this huge fire and left me, and it was snowing. It was really tough. And he said, "This is your fire initiation." And I stayed there all day, and it was truly one of the most enlivening days of my life. I cannot say too many good things about Leonard Orr. I admired him. I trusted him. I was aware that he was different. I had stuff with prosperity, and he was a good person to look to because he had stuff with prosperity. And because of that, he was so ingenious with the ways that he got money. I guess many of you know that when he had Campbell Hot Springs, 10 people were buying that, and 9 of them backed out. And so he carried a $10,000 a month mortgage on his own for years, and he would travel and speak and make that money. That was just awesome to me. There were so many gifts he gave me. So take it easy, and thank you, Leonard. I love you.
This is a song written about Leonard in the 70s by Paul Clark. I never heard the song. Dan Brule remembered it pretty well, so he sang me the melody and wrote down the words. Hope you like it. I was born on the East Coast in a small New England town. My early life was easy, so I traveled all around, seeing San Diego sunsets and South Dakota moons, the active hot volcano and the unknown soldier's tomb. I headed out west to see what I could find. I found a California guru to expand my mind. Leonard, oh, please tell me how to set my spirit free. He said, son, you gotta learn how to breathe. Hold on the inhale and let go with a sigh. Keep it all connected and your breath will get you high. Hold on the inhale and let go with a sigh. Keep it all connected and your breath will get you high. Keep it all connected and your breath will get you high. I truly was amazed, you see, I hadn't cried in years, as I lay beside an angel who dried my tears. My eyes were opened and my heart began to sing. You see, Leonard Orr had shown me how to set my spirit free. Pull on the inhale and let go with a sigh. Keep it all connected and your breath will get you high. Pull on the inhale and let go with a sigh. Keep it all connected and your breath will get you high. It's like being born again, just try it once and see. Keep it all connected and your breath will set you free. It's like being born again, just try it once and see. Leonard Orr has shown me how to set my spirit free.
And I'm humbled that I had the honor to study and learn with Leonard Orr. And when I think of Leonard and some of the lessons, and there were many, what comes to mind first and foremost was make sure you bathe. So I bathe in the morning and in the evening. And Leonard just always hit that home that it was important for us as breathwork facilitators to keep our energetic fields as clear and clean as we possibly can. And also what I learned from Leonard, well, he unveiled for me, I love fire. Boy, when I went down to the retreat center in Virginia, I loved going into the Dooney and starting my own fire. The purification of fire, the way it cleanses and clears me mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, the way it invites me to breathe deeper so that I go deeper and the better word is surrender even more to my breath. The fire is lovely. Yay, you, Leonard. Thank you.
What I find really relevant in 2020 is Leonard's awareness about the life urge and the death urge and how important that awareness is in our daily lives. His passion was to figure out what are the practices to build into our lifestyle so that we really feel our well-being. And so as we feel our best, we're able to contribute to the world the most. And he encouraged us to continue to find out what the patterns and habits are that bring us down and to continue to release those. On a collective level, I think it's also important to acknowledge Leonard's just how he brought these radical ideas to us. For example, physical immortality and I think he really wanted to open our mind. Thank you.
I wrote a poem for him for this tribute, and I'd like to share it on video. Anticipation, gut-churning fear, my heart palpates, you are near. Mind-crashing judgment to all you represent, to your unforeseen ideas, defense, no relent. Our first encounter that perfect day, Aegean sea where dolphins play, sunny sky intensely blue, sunsets speckled earthy hues, reflected in your eyes so true. Crazy genius, warm and cold, imploding thoughts, concepts to behold. It's time to breathe, I'm told. The breath takes my hand and walks me through. To integration, I find you. Truth, simplicity, and love has a face, it's you. Immortal eyes of crystal blue, an endless sea of love and peace. Dive in, they say, and play with me. Follow me to your sweet release. The longest dive into the abyss, riding on those waves of bliss, until the world to me appeared, deep understanding through me seared. I knew right then that I was you. That thought has always seen me through. Twisted mind no more in sight, freedom from the burdened plight, expanded all the potency of living life as truly me. Clarity, safety, true as day, love is now and always the way. Wholly surrendered in delight, the wave of breath I ride and ride. She's my mate now, for always now, her dance I follow, to her I bow. My breath, my source, my life. Sweet Leonard Guru, human too, present in everything I do, courage, commitment, humility, walking the talk, being me, I owe to your teachings an example too, treasures, miracles, gratitude. Jai Young Len Raja Jai, in eternal love and gratitude. Love you, Leonard.
One of the most valuable things that I learned from Leonard Orr is the power of consciousness and the power that that consciousness has on our biology, especially through the breath. When we connect our breaths in a circular motion, like how he taught, the goal is always more relaxation, more peace, more joy. But often getting there means what is in the way is going to come up for the purpose of clearing and release. As we showed in our latest movie, the Grand Self movie, we depicted a girl, which was actually a reenactment of a session that I had, where she was breathing and she remembered a suppressed memory where her sister was so jealous of her when she was born. She was just a little baby, that her sister came over and bit her arm. And just as she was remembering that, we actually saw the bite mark appear on her skin. And so we could see that it's the field of consciousness that surrounds our cells that is controlling our cells, and that's epigenetic control. So as she continued to breathe, it turned into a bruise and then a red mark and then completely went away. And she released that trauma psychologically, and we literally saw it release out of her body. So that's just one of the most valuable things that I wanted to share today about what I learned from Leonard Orr.
So I met him for the first time in 1990 in a training in Spain. It was 1 month in the nature. It surprised me, his creativity, his sense of humor, his authenticity. So he was quite a lot in silence, but I loved to communicate with him through the silence. The last time he was in Europe, I had the opportunity to give a training in Portugal with him, and it was the top for me. So thank you very much, Leonard, for expanding our lives and our happiness. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's David McNabb. This is my wife Pauline McNabb. We're coming to you from Hamilton, New Zealand with our own memories of Leonard. One of my first memories of Leonard was in Waikanae up the Kapiti coast of New Zealand. And I remember saying to Leonard that I felt that we were on the brink of nuclear war back in the Cold War, and that the difference made by rebirthing and the millions of people it touched was alone enough to pull us back from the precipice of war. Leonard said that Babaji told him in that moment that this was the case. And so that goes to showing the magnitude of the impact Leonard's had with his technique, which has changed my life and Pauline's lives and so many lives for the better.
I don't really know what to say about Leonard because it's so huge. I met him way back in the early 80s, and I must say that my first encounter with him was not what I expected. I expected someone with a lot of charisma and really someone that was voicing his opinion and out there, but it wasn't like that at all. He was laid back and gentle, and I really didn't understand this. I thought, wow, this is the father of rebirthing. But I realized later on that my consciousness wasn't high enough to see who he really was. And over the years, I came to know Leonard a lot better.
I was Leonard's executive director of Rebirth International and ran the training center in Walton in the late 90s, early 2000s. Using what Leonard Orr taught me gave me insights into spiritual psychology and advanced me on my spiritual path in unimaginable ways. I think you would be hard-pressed to find anyone in the world teaching at such a high level. For that, I will always be eternally grateful.
And I want to take us back to March of 1980, because as you will well recall, you and I and about 31 other folks were registered in Leonard's Leonard's training that was called Inspiration University. You might remember the old black and white poster, the one that said Inspiration University Campus, and then on the poster was a photo of planet Earth taken from space.
Yep.
So obviously the entire planet was the campus, and the understanding was that we would all be going to Europe in June. I scheduled a time to talk to Leonard. I said, "Look, Leonard, I can't go to Europe. I can't do it, man. I've only got enough money for a one-way ticket to London." Leonard just looked at me and he smiled and he said very softly, "Bob, come to Europe." And in that moment, I knew I was coming to Europe. And so then we get to Europe and Leonard gives me the job of teaching what? Of course, the prosperity consciousness consultation. And a seed was planted, and I began, I guess, to see the possibility that, maybe someday I could be a teacher of this stuff. And I never would have become a teacher of breath work, nor a teacher of the flower of life, or any of the stuff that I've done. But, you might say, well, yeah, but you still got your books. And I say, hey, wait a minute. The reason those books came about was because one day in October of 1992, a guy came to me as a new breathwork client. We did a session, and he was so impressed with what he got that he came for 30 consecutive weeks. Well, it turns out this guy owned a publishing company. And so that's how nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly how things are came to be. And it became an instant overnight sensation. So all of a sudden, I found myself as an instant celebrity. And the doorway was open for me to give my workshops here, there, and everywhere. In 1997, Leonard asked me if I would help him to get his book published. I said, sure. So I took it to my publisher, and so then I wrote a 19-page preface for what became Breaking the Death Habit. The book got published, and I think it turned out to be a really, really good book. I really consider that to be my lasting tribute to Leonard Orr.
I first met Leonard in 2002. Did my 9-day training, came back home, started giving sessions, organized for Leonard, and then eventually went and stayed with them at their house for 6 months and managed the bookstore and took in all of the calls coming in from people all around the world, some just having their first experience with breathwork. So for all the people that are new who never got to meet Leonard Orr, I want you to know that who Leonard was and who Leonard is so much bigger than just his incarnation. His consciousness lives on, and you can connect with him still in your own way through your breath, and certainly through his books and his writings. And I think that's just awesome how many people can say that they've had an impact this big, and it came through Leonard, who is just a regular guy, who is also completely exceptional.
My name is Heike Strombach, and I traveled and worked with him. I was his friend for the last 29 years of his life. For me, Leonard Orr was a continuous source of inspiration because he was continuously thinking, meditating, and writing about life and the meaning of it. And I chose him as my teacher because I saw the divine quality in him, that he was able to listen to people, and he was always thinking about how to make life a better place for them, for all of us. We went around the world building spiritual community. We were leading seminars in many, many different countries, and we would inspire people to keep meeting in one-year seminars, to work together, and to learn to live in harmony in loving relationships. And Leonard had great insights about life and relationships, and he would transform the people in the trainings, and it was a great honor to be there and witness that. So I'm very grateful for him. Thank you.
Leonard has been a great teacher in my life, a wonderful character, total wild card. In 1980, when I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we had a number of people who became rebirthers. And so we started one of the first one-year seminars in 1980. And so Leonard was a regular visitor for a number of years and brought the various other rebirthing people along with him. And we just marveled at his unusual way of teaching, his playful spirit, and his singular uniqueness of approach. And then over the years, we stayed in touch with Leonard. I remember one time after I had started performing cosmic comedy as Swami Beyondananda, I believe this was at an event in Michigan, Leonard showed up out of the clear blue. We had no idea where he came from. And he brought equipment to videotape this Swami performance that he was going to share with people all over the world. Leonard loyally manned the camera the entire time. And when we looked, no picture had been taken. It was completely blank. So the universe played a trick on us and on Leonard. Over the years, we got to be with him several times. I remember one time with his RV that had a wood stove in it. Another time we were in Asheville, North Carolina, and I believe Leonard was there, but he was in the bathtub most of the time. It's very rare that we get to meet truly unique individuals like Leonard. Rebirthing was the gateway to find out more about New Thought, about perennial wisdom, about Babaji, about Eastern spirituality, all with a very, very American and unusual tint. So we honor Leonard on his eternal journey. Leonard, bon voyage. It was so much fun knowing you, and we will see you on the Universal Funway at some point.
My name is Claude Charlebois, and I'm a pro photographer, videographer, and creativity lecturer from Montreal, Canada. I did my first rebirthing session in the early 80s and was so impressed by the results that I decided to become certified. I met Leonard for the first time for a weekend seminar in Boston in February '84, I believe, where he convinced me to travel to India and Nepal with him to meet Babaji, and I accepted. A few weeks later, I learned that Babaji had left his physical form on February 14th, the day, Valentine's Day. And that was the very same day I talked with Leonard about and had decided to travel to Huracan with him. I guess this was my first test in accepting physical immortality, and I remember feeling like someone that had decided to meet with Jesus on the day of his crucifixion. So I postponed the trip, but Leonard kept telling me over the next few years that Babaji was manifesting different bodies here and there. And I believe that it was a psychic friend of his that thought he was on Shishapangma mountain in Tibet. So in September '87, on this incredible leap of faith, I traveled to India and intercepted Leonard on a flight between Delhi and Kathmandu. So after planning our trek with local guides, we booked one of the King of Nepal's choppers, and 4 of our party headed out for the Himalayas. We landed in the Langtang Valley and started trekking towards Shishapangma, which was on the border of Nepal and Tibet. As it turned out, the altitude gain was too much for our 2 accompanying friends, and so Leonard and I were on our own. Leonard has always been full of surprises, and so on a bright sunny morning he asked me if I wanted to trek with him on what I thought would be an afternoon walk. So we left with no food, no warm clothing, no sleeping bag, no tent, on what became ultimately a 3-day trek. We concentrated and fed on the breath in what seemed to me like 12-hour-long rebirthing sessions. But at one point, I became totally fearless in his presence. We crossed at one point the base camp of some Polish climbers, and they thought we were totally insane at our desire to go on trekking throughout the night. And I somehow knew that we had all the necessary resources to explore at will, and it became a lesson in breath and energy mastery. We spent the first cold night at an altitude of around 18,000 feet, and Leonard described the event as a Mount Sinai-like experience. Those of you that have done vision quests will understand our intention. If you want to know the full story, you can read all about it in Paula Churchill's biography of Leonard called The Eternal Breath. In ending, I'm eternally grateful to Leonard for giving me and the world one of the most powerful evolutionary tools. He didn't graduate into physical immortality this time around, but I feel he accumulated so much evolutionary voltage, if you will, that the Source will surely gift him with more wonders than he can imagine. May we all bathe in his vision, and may Christ consciousness be with you always. Blessings to all, in truth, simplicity, and love.
Leonard, celebrate Leonard, sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard, sing it with an open heart. Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard, sing it with an open and a joyful heart. Om Leonard, celebrate Leonard, sing it with an open heart. Yee-hoo!
I hope you were touched by that sharing, by some of those stories. And I welcome you, and I encourage everyone, and I invite everyone, let's take a few breaths right now in honor of Leonard Orr. He helped so many of us open our hearts, unlock the power of our spirit, clear away baggage and programming and conditioning that we accumulated from birth. So few wonderful, grateful breaths toward Leonard Orr. You're alive, Leonard. Thank you.